Right, so for our final part of exercise 11 at task 5, we're going to be taking nearly all the skills that we've used in the last 4 videos and combine them together to make this rather long program. Okay, now the purpose of the program for task 5 is going to be a kind of grocery store inventory. So we're going to have a text file called task5.txt that contains names of products and the price of each product. The file is going to be split up using returns as a delimiter, so we're going to have to remember that for later on. And we are going to be asking the user if they want to enter a new product at the end of the file. So we're going to be using the append function, okay? And what we're going to do is create a conditional loop that will ask the user if they want to enter it using a text box with 2 buttons, okay? Now, when you open up your program and you make sure you're working on the task 5 button, you're given this template here. Now, this template is probably the longest one we've given you so far, so there's going to be a lot of details, so sadly you're going to have to listen to me for the whole video, and I think it's going to be a long one, okay? Now, when it comes to starting off, it's better to go procedure by procedure, okay? So we've got, first of all, we have 2 arrays, okay? One is going to be a string array that holds the name of each of the products, so we've called it product name. And the next one is a real array that will hold the price of each product, and that's going to be called product price. We are going to be using number items to be storing how many items is in the text file at the moment, and then we're going to be using it to add more details to the end of the file, okay? Now, we don't need to touch initialize, it's been done for us, so we can move on to the first procedure called read file. Okay, now read file has 3 parameters need to be passed in, so we've got number items, product name and product price. Now the reason why they're being brought in is because we are going to be opening the file task5.txt, reading the details, and we're going to add them in to product name and product price, and then use that information to get the number of items, okay? So they're all being changed in the procedure, so we're going to have to use the @ sign to show Livecode that the procedures are getting passed in and the values of the procedure, the parameters, sorry, are being changed. Now, when it comes to reading that information in, we've got to open our text file, read from the file, store in temp data, and then we're going to do all the stuff we've been doing for the previous 4 tasks. So what I will do is stop talking, even though I said I wouldn't, put some music on in the background, and I'll slowly work my way through it, and you can watch, and if you need any help, then just pay attention, okay? Right, so now that we have entered the code that is getting the file name of the stack, changing the last part of it to task5.txt to open the file and reading the file in. Okay, we're storing the data in the file into temp data and we've closed the file. Now, we need to split our data up so we can store it in the individual arrays. Okay, so like I said earlier on, the file is split using a return. That's the delimiter. So if you look at the file, here it is here, okay, you'll see that we have cornflakes in 139, chocolate fingers 169, and so on and so forth, and they're split up by being on each individual line, okay? So we're going to be setting our delimiter to the return, okay? So down here, we're going to set the item delimiter to return. Now what that's going to do, as previous examples have shown, it's going to separate the data. It's going to go, right, there's one bit of data, there's a return, so the next item must be a different bit of data, and that's how it splits it up. Okay, so once we've done that, you can then work out how many items or and how many individual products are in the program. Okay, now we know that each line is a single bit of information. Okay, and we know there's two bits of information in the program, one being the product name and one being the product price. So we need to get the number of lines in temp data. Now what that does is looks at the variable temp data, which has got all the information from the file in it, okay, and we are looking at how many lines that's used, and we're going to take the lines and we're going to divide them by 2. Now what that means is if we've got 8 products, then we've got 16 bits of information. Okay, we've got 8 product names and we've got 8 product prices. Okay, so we have all these bits of information and we are telling the program that yes, we've got 16 lines, but if we divide that by 2, that's how many products we have. Okay, so we're going to then store that in number of items, okay, or number items, right? So that means that, like I said, if we've got 8 products, we'll have 16 bits of information, but we only want to use the number 8, okay? Now, to split the contents of the file, we're going to repeat with loop, okay, equals 0 to number items minus 1, okay? Now what that means is we are looping we're going to create a fixed loop that will loop from 0 to the amount of items take away 1, okay? Now the reason why we're doing that is because we are storing the information into an array. Now remember, array indexing starts at 0, so to do that we need to loop from 0, okay? And number of items take away 1 is there because if we've got 8 items, we need to loop from 0 to 7 because that's 8 individual bits of data. Okay, so put item, and then we're going to do a bit of brackets here, right? So we've got loop times 2, okay, close one set of brackets and then do plus 1, okay, of temp data into product name, then loop. Okay, now you'll notice that I have not closed my second set of brackets, which gave us a lovely wee error message to show my mistake. Okay, now what this line of code is doing is it is taking item and then loop, remember, is the number of iterations. So at the moment it's 0, so it'll be 0 times 2 plus 1. Okay, so that means that we're taking item 1 of temp data, which is going to be the first item in temp data, so therefore the first item in our file. Okay, so we are taking that first item and we're storing it in the product name array at the position 0 to number of items minus 1, which is our loop. Okay, now for the next part we're going to put item, and instead of plus 1 it's going to be plus 2. Now the reason it's plus 2 is because The first item is the name of the product, and the second item is the price of the product. Okay, so I need a capital D in my data. That means that we have two parallel arrays, okay, where index 0 relates to the same product in both of them, okay, but they are different arrays, okay. So product price, okay. Now the way this works is loop times 2 plus 1 means the first bit of data, because it will be 0 times 2, which is 0, plus 1, so the first bit of data will be stored in product name, and then 0 plus 2 is the second bit of data. It's been stored in product price. Now, if we loop again, loop becomes 1, and 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2, plus 2 is 4, okay? So that means item 3 and 4 will be stored in the second index in our arrays, okay? So, once this loop is finished, we will have two parallel arrays with the information of all the names in one array and the prices in another array, okay, because of this wee mathematical formula here. Now, this number here is always going to be the amount of separate items, okay? So if you've got 6 different bits of information about one product, that would be times 6, okay? And it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? So that number there is always the amount, different amounts of data that you have, right? Now, that is us reading our information. So we've populated our two arrays. Now we can move on. We're going to ask the user if they want to enter new data, okay? Now again, we have to do our parameter passing. So we've got enter new data here, okay? So what we're going to do is, first of all, swap our enter new data and display details around, okay? So I'm just going to do a wee control X there to cut it out. I'm going to paste it in there, okay? And then copy and paste your parameters for enter new data and put it in here. Now, the reason why I'm entering new data, swapping those two around, is because if we run our program the way it was, we would be enter new data after displaying the details. So our details would be displayed, but then we wouldn't actually be displaying the new data, okay? So we'd have to run the program a second time just to get our new data on our program, okay? So if we're entering new data, number of items is going to be changing, okay? Product name is going to be changing, okay? And product price is also going to be changing, okay? Now, the reason for that is if the user wants to enter a new bit of information, number of items will change. They'll have to then enter the name of the new product and have to enter the price of the new product, so they're also changing, okay? So what you have to do is scroll down to where it says repeat while continue equals true. Now, you will not have seen this line of code before, okay? Now, what this line of code is doing is creating, so answer is a pop-up box. So we're creating a pop-up box that will ask them if they want to enter new data to the file, okay? Now, this bit here with yes or no is just giving the user a yes or no box. So they can tick yes or they can click no, okay? And more data is just the name of the pop-up box, okay? And basically it's a wee if statement, so that if the user ticks the no button, it's going to change this boolean, sorry, I don't know what happened there, but this boolean variable continue will be set to false, whereas up here it's been set to continue, okay? So if they don't want to enter more data, it will put false into continue, and then our conditional loop here won't run because it will only run while continue is set to true, okay? So what we're going to do now is create that code. Right, so the first step in adding our new data, we have to increment our number of items. Okay, so basically, if the user wants to add new information, so they've ticked yes on the pop-up box, then our number of items is going to increase. Okay, so we are going to add 1 to number items. Okay, now again, you could always use put number of items plus 1 into number of items and have a running total within your loop. Okay, so it's up to yourself what you want to do here. So if our number of items has been incremented, once we've done that, we need to then ask and get our new details for the product. Okay, so just the normal ask box. So please enter the name of the product. We'll give the user an ask box with the question on it. Okay, it's always good to have that relevant. If the result equals cancel, then exit to top. Now obviously that will cancel the program if they hit no. Now what we're going to do is put it into, and then we're going to store it in product name, which is, remember, is our array with all our product names. Okay, and we're going to be storing it in product name at the index number items minus 1. Okay, now the reason being is if we just stored that in the array at the index number items, then we would have our program starting at 0. So say we've got 8 items, which would be indexes 0 to 7. If we put it in product name number items, we'd be storing it in 8 plus 1, which would be 9. So we would have 0 to 7 and then the number 9, okay, using index 9, which misses out index 8, okay? And then later on, when we then write our data to the file, the append will not work properly. Okay, so we have to put it into number items minus 1. Right, again, we're going to ask the user to please enter the price of the product. Okay, now again, the same as usual, making sure that if the user hits cancel, then the program will quit out. Okay, and we're going to store it and product price, again at index number items take away 1. Okay, right, so once we've done that, we've got our new information. We then need to call a procedure where we write the details to the end of the file. Okay, so we have this procedure, it's called send to file. Okay, now the reason why we're calling the procedure during the loop and not up here is because if we put it up here, then even if the user had clicked no they didn't want to add any more information, it would still call the procedure and the program wouldn't work properly, it wouldn't be fit for purpose. Okay, whereas if we put this here, it means that if the user has clicked yes and continue is equal to true, then it will call the procedure send to file. Although we need to put in our parameter passing. Okay, now what we're going to put in the parameters are number items. Okay, so number items. Okay, because we need to know how many items is in our arrays. Okay, we are going to put product name. Now we are not going to be passing all of product name. Okay, we're only going to be passing the product name at the current items index. Okay, so it's going to be number items minus 1. Okay, now what that means is instead of passing the whole array of strings, we are only passing that one index. Okay, and it is the one index that has been changed in this iteration of the loop, so in this run of the loop. Okay, so this will be called every single time the program loops. So if the user hits yes the next time, then this will loop again. And what it means is we're only sending one bit of information and we're making it into a variable instead of an array. And this won't affect the rest of the program, it's only going to affect this procedure. Okay, and we're going to do the same for product price. And again, it will be number items minus 1. Okay. Now, once we've done that, we can copy the information so that we can then, down in our send to file procedure, we can add our parameter passing, okay, but we're going to remove this part here, okay. Now the reason why we remove that is because, like I said, when we have passed one index of an array into a procedure, that is no longer in our new procedure an array, okay. It becomes a single bit of information, okay. So we are going to use this parameter and it's going to be treated as a variable in our procedure, okay. So it's almost as if it is a formal parameter, okay. So this is like, you could make this a different name and it would just be storing the individual bit of data, okay. So now that we have sent the file, okay, or sent the data to this procedure, okay, what we're going to do is open up the file again and then we're going to append the data at the end, okay. Now I'm going to put some music back on and watch it, and you can watch it through it because this is what we did in task 4. So if you are watching and you still struggle to understand it, I'd fully recommend going back to the task 4 video and watching that again where I explain it in more detail, okay. Right, now that we have finished our code, if we look at the actual file we've been using, it has been our task 5 file, okay. So there it is there. You can see that we have our items one after the other. It ends in Kit Kat and £1.10. So if we stop that and then run my program, okay, or you can run your program, then it's going to ask me, there's that pop-up box, do you want to add new product data to the data file? You probably can't see it in the recording, for some reason it doesn't pick up these wee text boxes, but if you click no, it displays the information, and as you can see, if I hide my code there, you can see that we have our product name, product price, and we have the items ending with Kit Kat being £1.10, okay? Now, if I run my code a second time, okay, it's going to ask me want to add more data. This time I'm going to click yes, and it's going to ask me to enter the name of a product. Now, here's a wee Mr. Law fun fact. My favourite sweets are jelly beans, so I'm going to type in jelly beans, and I'd hit OK. And in an ideal world, the price of the product would be 0.10 pence. Okay, so if I click OK, I'm going to click no to add new data to the file. You can see that it still has the previous example, but if I click clear, then task 5, and then do you want to add new product, click no, there you can see jelly beans there proudly at the bottom at 10 pence. Okay, so that is us. We're now finished task 11, so you should be able to completely do all aspects of file operations in Livecode. Okay.